Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my review for A Quiet Place Part 2. So, yeah, I just went and saw this just today with my grandmother. And you may remember I did a reaction to Part 1 on this channel. And I think the best way to put it would be that A Quiet Place Part 2 is not a worthy follow up to the first film. It actually makes the first film better. And I mean this as the highest praise possible. A Quiet Place Part 2 is honestly masterful. It expands upon the first movie in the best possible of ways. What do I have going on here? What the hell? Sorry about that. I got really distracted for a second there. Um, it expands upon the first film in many ways, including with scares, world building, character development, and it keeps that tension that the first film made so powerful. It continues to highlight that throughout this film, even though there's a lot more going on in this one. And I'm going to say right now, going forward from this point on in this review, there will be spoilers for A Quiet Place Part 2. So if you have not yet seen this movie and desire to, I would suggest ending the video when I move to the spoilers. But just to give just a continued non-spoilery review finish to this, for all of you who have yet to see it yet. I really love this film. It's just a masterful example of why we need John Krasinski to direct more big name movies, whether horror or otherwise. So, that being said, we are now going to move into spoiler territory in 3, 2, 1, now. Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy is a newly added character. Well, his character is newly added to this film as a friend of Lee's. Lee, John Krasinski's character. We get to see the backstory of what happened when the invasion occurred, when these alien creatures came to Earth. We get to see the first moments of this invasion. We get to see the monsters attacking. We get to see a lot of people in this, which is very different from the original. Obviously, still only a few are focused on. And Cillian Murphy's character, Emmett, is one of those focused characters. Emmett is one of Lee's friends, and we first see him during this flashback scene at the beginning of the film at a baseball game. They're talking and chatting. He learns the sign language. I might do this wrong, so I apologize, but he learns a sign for dive, which is basically holding your hands like this and doing that. And again, I might have gotten that kind of off, kind of wrong. I apologize if I did. He learns what that sign is, though, from Reagan, the young daughter who is deaf from the first film. And we get to see the events of, again, when it first happens. We get to see the monsters come and how everyone reacts to it. And then it flashes back to current day following the events of the first movie, like directly following them. We get to see how the remaining members of the family, the mother and the 2 children and the baby, I only remember Reagan's name. I apologize about that. But we see how they're continuing on. They're leaving the home they had been at before and moving on. And they end up meeting with Emmett again, seeing him after all this time. And at this point, he's kind of become a survivalist. This kind of jaded, cold survivalist who just doesn't have any hope anymore. He's, as he puts it, he's been through a lot. He lost his children, he lost his wife, and on top of that, he's seen that in this post-apocalyptic monster world, he's seen people who have formed these groups and they're not good, to put it slightly. Which you kind of see in a lot of post apocalyptic movies and games and whatnot. You see these groups of like just bad people. You see it a lot in zombie apocalypse games like The Walking Dead and whatnot, or shows, movies, yada yada. So you get to see how he's just kind of lost hope, lost all desire to really do anything but survive. But he does help them, he does bring them in when he sees what they're doing and sees how they're able to defeat and kill the monsters. Reagan ends up figuring out this message within a song that's being broadcast on the radio. And she uses this to figure out that there is a safe place beyond the waters. So she wants to go and find out what's going on with this. She wants to go and see like what they can find out for this, but obviously she wouldn't be allowed to, so she just kind of runs away. Emmett is tasked to go get her back by her mother, and that's when the group kind of splits up for the rest of the film. Emmett and Reagan go off on their journey. Originally, Reagan trying to bring her back, but eventually works with her on her mission. And back at the base, at Emmett's base, which is an old steel factory, the mother, her son, and the baby are just trying to survive. I'll talk about that part of it first. The mother ends up going away at one point to get some supplies, leaving the son there to take care of the baby, and a monster ends up attacking them. They end up getting locked in this, I think it's like a drum, like a machine drum that, I don't know how to word it, but they get locked in it because normally there's a towel that prevents the lock from hitching. So they forget to, the brother forgets to put the towel in the way, and they get locked in while monsters attacking and everything. And the mother comes back and ends up working to stop the monster and everything, or at least distract it while she gets to her children. And eventually, the brother ends up killing the monster after his sister's plan, after Reagan's plan succeeds. It's a good B plot to the film. Excuse me. But let's talk about the A plot, Reagan and Emmett. So Reagan and Emmett continue on their way. They go through these few places. We see not too much happen until they get to these docks where they find these boats. They're planning to sail across the water as the message has told them to. And so when they're on the docks, though, they end up getting attacked by this group of people. Like people, not monsters. These people end up attacking them and are going to like steal their stuff or whatnot, and are trying to take Reagan away while tying up Emmett. And that's when Emmett gives her the sign to dive. So she dives in the water as he attacks, and it causes the leader of this group of people to scream out and cause a lot of sound, and the monsters come. During this confrontation, everything, Emmett also dives in and everything, but we also see that the monsters cannot swim. So giving us a bit of depth with all of that. Emmett and Reagan end up getting away and taking off to an island where they found the signal is from. They meet a group of survivors there who are a good group of survivors, and having realized early on that the monsters can't swim, have been living on this island safe and able to speak and make noise and everything. And they've been sending out the radio broadcast to get other people to come as well. The leader of this island, or at least what appears to be the leader, at least one of the guys on the island, at least, is also played by Jimon Hunso. I probably butchered that name, and I apologize. But you've seen him in all kinds of stuff. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy, for example. Um, and he does a good job, but it's very clear he's a minor character. Anyways, one of the monsters ended up hitching a ride under the boat. Like it can't swim, but it like latched onto the boat with its claws and it ends up getting to the island. And so Reagan and Emmett go with Jimon Hanso's character to the radio station where they'd been broadcasting the song. And there's a final standoff with one of the monsters and them there. But they end up broadcasting the feedback from Reagan's hearing aid that, hurts the monsters. And they succeed. And that's kind of where the movie ends. I really like the increased focus on Reagan here because she was definitely a star of the first film. The actress Millicent Simmons is phenomenal. She does such a fantastic job. I love when movies have child actors who are really good, not just good, but really good. And she is really fucking good. She does a fantastic job here, even better, I would say, than in the first film, which she already did fantastic in. And it definitely speaks to that experience of having been in the first film that she's able to play this role even better now. Cillian Murphy is such an underrated, phenomenal actor. Um, Seriously, like he's always been fantastic. He's always been fantastic in everything. Even goofier roles, like when he played Scarecrow in Batman Begins, he was still really good at playing that version of Scarecrow. He was also good in another horror movie called Red Eye, which wasn't the best movie overall necessarily, but he was great in it. Um, he was phenomenal in this. Like, honestly, I haven't seen everything he's done, but this is the best thing I've seen him in, without question. His best role that I've seen him in. John Krasinski is in the early flashbacks in this movie, and he does a phenomenal job as always, just like he did in the first film. Emily Blunt is still great. The actor who plays the brother, is fantastic. Just really great performances all around. And for a movie that is so steeped in quiet, in tension, in just the characters not saying too much, though in this one they talk a lot more than in the first. Um, it really sells their physical acting abilities. And let's talk about them talking more in this one, because they talk a lot more. There's a lot more either safe places or situations where they can talk more than in the first one. And it doesn't feel like it's a bad choice. In fact, I think it's a great choice. Because the first one, it's like John Krasinski wasn't going to like have lightning strike twice in the same way. He had to change things up a little bit. So by having more cast members, by having more time for actual speaking, it allowed it to feel fresh, but also still feel natural. He wrote it in a way to where it didn't feel like it was coming out of nowhere. He made it feel like, okay, yeah, this is a safe location or this is a safe situation. It's like, yeah, we're going to hear them talk. Sure. Um, and there's certain situations where you hear them talk or scream or make noise where it's like, okay, yeah, you can't really help it in that situation. Such as there's one point where the brother gets his ankle caught in a bear trap and he screams out because of how much pain he's in. And it's like, yeah, like even knowing the danger, it's like you're going to scream from that. That's going to be fucking horrible. It all made sense. Every single thing in this film made sense and worked and just felt natural to how the first one had set it up. And I've already heard that John Krasinski wants to make another one. He wants to make a third, and he's even set up things in this movie to where a third would be possible and would feel like, oh, you look back on the second one, it's like, oh yeah, that is set up for this. It's like that's what John Krasinski put into this film. But if a third isn't made, he also gave it an ending that, while sudden, it is a very sudden end, still feels satisfying. Still feels like cool. If this does end here and we don't get a third one, it's good because it was still satisfying and it still worked. So yeah, overall, this movie was just masterful. As I said, just a true, fantastic piece of art. And again, proof that John Krasinski really needs to direct more big name films, whether horror or otherwise. Because, like, this dude has talent. As a writer, as a director, he just has massive talent, and we need more of him. We need more of him in this world. But tell me in the comments below what you thought of A Quiet Place Part 2. If you've seen it. If you haven't, I would suggest probably not have watched this review, because again, I talk about a lot. I basically like dial down the plot and explain the plot. Um, but yeah, if you have seen the movie, tell me your thoughts down below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.